You know, Reading are a nice team, aren't they? When players who have only scored one goal in 60-odd games come up against us, we let them score 2 in 49 minutes. That's just the type of team we are, always helping out, always doing our little bit. And welcome to the Tilehurst End Podcast, episode 153 with your host, as ever, Marc Mayer. And for the first time in a while, we've actually been able to, despite the technical glitches that we just had in trying to record this intro for the first time, record a podcast from actually inside the Tilehurst End Towers and set up the microphones and everything, not over Skype, because joining me this week is Westy. How's it going, mate?
Yes, I'm back. How are you, Mark?
I'm all right. It's been an interesting one doing this show for the last few weeks, hasn't it?
Well, yeah, I've been listening, obviously, when I've been walking the dog, as I normally do, and it's just wow at the minute, isn't it? You don't realise how bad we've become until you actually look back over the last 5, 6, 7 weeks and think, geez, that is poor.
Yeah, it's just that sort of perspective as to even the moments in games when, oh no, this is the moment when we turn it around and we have a good performance. It just doesn't happen, does it?
It doesn't happen. And I was listening the last couple of weeks, and I just want to comment very quickly before we move on to new stuff on the Blackett issue. The fact that it came on and got taken off. Now, when the board went up for him to come on, I don't think it was any surprise to anybody when I turned to my friend and I said to him, do you know what? Let's watch Blackett switch off every couple of minutes every time he gets the ball, because he does it all the time. What was a surprise to me, and I thought was pretty bad, to be honest, was what the home fans started to boo his errors. Now, he was poor. He does switch off. But is it counterproductive to boo your own players? I think yes. Admittedly, I was thinking the same as what they were doing, but I just didn't do it.
Don't vocalise it.
No, don't vocalise it. But yeah, and people were criticising Stam, saying, was it the right thing to take him off? I thought to myself, what else can you do? Do you want to leave him on there, watch it get even more toxic for the bloke, and then let him sit out the whole game and end up getting booed off the pitch? Or do you think, do you know what, let's try and protect him and drag him off? Now, I can see arguments for both sides, but I thought, on that occasion, Stam did the right thing.
Well, he managed to keep him on the bench for the duration of the Middlesbrough defeat. 2-1 it was up at the Riverside on Saturday. And we now actually have a little bit of a break, so there won't be a podcast extra this week. There won't be a main show next week because the podcast extra will return after the Forest game next Tuesday. So we'll crack on and talk about Middlesbrough then in the recap.
View from the Tilehurst End.
Recapping this week's championship action.
Westy, this was very much a case of same old, same old. We've had some decent results at the Riverside over the last few years, but this one, we went into it, no one really thought we were going to get anything, even though Boro haven't been particularly impressive since Tony Pulis took over. The summary of the game, I'm going to say in 4 words, and that's 2 shots on target. Yeah,
again, it's no surprise that we've only had a few shots on target. I think Millwall did have 1 shot in the last couple of minutes on target.
Yeah, sounds about right.
It's just poor. The problems are all over the place. You don't need me to explain them to everybody, but we're not scoring, or we don't look like scoring. And not only that, the defending and just the general play at the moment is terrible. I mean, if you see the goals we give away again this week, it's just poor. I think the penalty incident at the end, and I'm going to get to it, but what was he doing for the throw-on? It was like watching a pub team. And you think for seasoned professionals, they should be doing better than they're doing. And you can blame the manager all you like, but even the first opportunity we had in that game was a great ball. I think Aluku got it. He cut it back to Kelly. And Kelly's, what sort of shot was that?
It was about 7 yards out, wasn't it? It's not even that far away from the goal.
And he even had time to have a touch and try and place the ball, and he just ends up blazing over the bar. And that sort of thing you can't legislate for. And that, as far as I'm concerned, is unacceptable.
Yeah, I think about, especially with the second goal, how many times have we conceded goals from having possession in our own half? I think last year we were talking about conceding goals from our attacking corners. This year, it's not even that complicated. It's just a case of knocking it around at the back. And if you're going to do that, fine. You've got to know when to get rid of that if you're under too much pressure. But players like Bakuna have managed to concede so many times this year from passing around, losing possession, and then, that's in, they've scored.
Yeah, it's not only that, there seems like a lack of desire to correct it. When people have made mistakes, it seems a lot of people jogging back, not putting in too much of an effort. I think our midfield at the moment, or I've said it pretty much all season, is too powder puff and nice. Do you know what I mean? When's the last time you see someone put in a really big tackle, a real hard tackle, and thought, oh, actually, here we go?
Have we had a player like sent off or anything this year? I can't think
of anyone booked.
I can't think of any time when we've done that, the cynical foul. And you think of football, these are sort of football things that we don't like about the game, but you have to get involved in them. You have to be part of that if you're going to, especially in the Championship.
I think Van der Berg's been booked a couple of times, sort of niggly little tackles, but I think that's just because he's off the pace most of the time, and he's got to have a choice.
It's not cynical, it's just bad.
It's just poor. Yeah, and the rest of them, I mean, again, we'll talk about the penalty incident again, but I think that's the third penalty now that is give away since Edwards since he's been here. Just clumsy tackles in the box, you know what I mean? Just poor all-round play. Midfield's too powder puff. I think if you look at the first goal they scored, Aluku, and I think Tim Della alluded to it on the radio as well, he's gone in for a 65-35 in his favour. He's pulled out of it, and next thing you know, they've get us on a break and scored.
Yeah.
And Aluku, when he was interviewed about it, he didn't even remember the incident. like it was expected for him to pull out of a tackle. And again, it's just a lack of fight in that team. And if you look at them now, and I'm seriously worried because I think they're going to get relegated because they can't win, they can't defend, the play's poor, and they're too powder puff and nice.
Yeah, so we'll be going on to the relegation matter in Pubchat because we have an interesting question about whether or not it's worth sacking Stam at this point of the season, given the relegation scenario and everything. So we'll get on to that a bit later. So as I said in the intro, kind Reading is how I sum up us at the moment. Troy obviously scored one goal, and I think it's 63. The first goal, it kind of slips through Mannoni's hands a little bit too easy. He's not produced... I mean, I'm a defender of Mannoni. I think he's a good goalkeeper for 85% of the games you play at him. But I can't think of too many times in recent weeks he's saved us and you've said, oh, wow, Mannoni's done that. Good on him, sort of thing.
I think he looks desperately shaky, don't you? I'm never confident with him. I was confident with him at the start of the season. I thought, yeah, he looks all right. But the more the season goes on, and to be fair, he ain't got much in front of him at the moment. He seems shakier and shakier, and his confidence looks like he's a bit drained, and he's starting to make what I'd call stupid errors. Little punches when he should catch. You know, I mean, missed saves that he should be making. There's been a few this last sort of 10, 11 weeks. I thought,
soft hands, isn't it?
He should have saved that. I mean, that one against Burton that sort of trickled in for about 4 miles out. You think that's poor. And compared to Al-Habsi, I don't think there's any comparison. I think Al-Habsi's much better goalkeeper than him.
Which is weird because Al-Habsi, when he came to the club at least, was a shaky goalkeeper. He was Ali Al-Flapsi. He was someone who would be a liability at that moment, and we found consistency with him. And I think that's because the team... I mean, to be honest, the team wasn't even doing that well for the first season he was player of the season of the two. So it's not a case that he had anything much harder than Mannoni to do. He just managed to have that reassuring save in him.
I think from the difference between last year and this year is we seem to win games without creating a lot of chances last year, really. We didn't dominate many games. We think, we've had 12 shots on target there, but we were scoring. But when Al-Habsi was called upon, 9 times out of 10, he would save them. And this year, it's not even 4 out of 10, is it? Whenever it seems to be on target at the moment, it ends up in the net. I think Middlesbrough only had 5 shots on target, one at the post. One mate he scuffed when he should have scored from 6 yards out, and the other 2 that were on target went in. So, and the first one, again, you've got to blame the goalkeeper for that. It shouldn't have been given the opportunity to have the shot, but once he did, he should have got a good hand on that easily, shouldn't he?
Yeah, it was from some way out. We did actually get back into the game. Chris Martin scoring his first Reading goal with a decent finish. It was a nice little worked corner move. Not the first nice little corner move that we've pulled off recently. Against Burton, we had a nice one as well. Shows what the players been doing in their training sessions.
It's been making me wonder recently.
As opposed to anything else that's a necessity, let's call it. But, I mean, we've only earned 1 point in the last 5 minutes of every game this season. We've earned, Leeds was 84th minutes, perhaps I'm being a bit pernickety, but in terms of those real injury time, last gasp winners or equalisers that we conceded against Barnsley, against Cardiff, we've only done once, and that was against Hull at home earlier in the season. So, did you actually ever believe at getting back to 2-1 that we would nick a point?
No, not at any stage.
I'm not sure I did either.
I didn't. As soon as Reading went 1-0 down, I thought, wow, I'd been hoping it had been a hope for a draw. I just don't think they're capable now. I think you look at them, they look shot. Every time a team scores against them, you can pretty much write off the game. And that is a worry.
Yeah, I think that's actually been how it has been under Adkins, under Clark. There's been a number of times when that's been happening over the past few seasons. The Assombalonga penalty was happily a bit of a comedy moment, predominantly because I predicted 2-1 in the prediction league. So knowing that we got to go back and then they've missed their penalty secured my my points quite nicely in that. But I mean, it just goes to show that if we we're not actually that far away from being hammered occasionally, are we? Because Boro did have their chances, and they weren't even that particularly great, were they?
They could have been hammered, and like I say, a lot of the opportunities we gave them. Again, Bakuna, I don't know if it's a goal they scored or the chance before that, where he's sort of gone for a header. His timing was all off.
Yeah, that was the second goal.
Yeah, his timing was all off. It was terrible, and they've ended up scoring from it. To be fair, it was a great finish, and he didn't have a lot to shoot at. But the penalty, I discussed it earlier, the throw-on was awful. Edwards' touch was poor, and then he's chasing the ball back. Again, I didn't think it was a penalty. I thought he won the ball quite clearly. But once you go chasing, you've got players that got their back to you, and you're chasing them into the box. Any sort of touch, you're asking for trouble. I mean, the penalty was laughable, but like you say, it only let us off the hook, really. I mean, it could have been any sort of score, and the fact that it ended up 2-1 probably flattered us more than it should have done.
Yeah, to be honest, we're actually looking at the stats anyway. That was our first league defeat in 3 games away from home. We are better away from home than at the Mid-AC Stadium this season. As pretty much anyone looking at the table will see that we're mid-table in terms of the away league table. So, I mean, why is that at the moment? That doesn't really ring true with me in terms of the way that we play, because we don't play the classic away from home counter-attacking sucker punch style. We don't have we have some quick wingers and whatnot. I suppose that's made the difference for a lot of games. Certainly Leeds and Sunderland spring to mind. But, I mean, why is that? How come we're playing such a standard home team game throughout the season, no matter where we go, and yet it's only working on the road?
Well, Stam seems to think it's the fans' fault, doesn't he? He seems to think, he said recently, sort of alluded to the fact that there's not an atmosphere for the team to be successful at home, which I think is, again, nonsense. Away from home, I just think it's coincidence. I don't think there's any reason for it other than coincidence, because let's face it, we've not been great away from home. Yeah, we've picked up a few points here and there, but we've not been great, and we've only picked up, apart from earlier in the season, points against poor sides. And other than that, I just think it's pure coincidence. I don't think we set up any differently. I don't think we're playing any sort of different game. I think the only thing you could probably point at was maybe, especially earlier in the season, a lot of teams would come out at us where they would sit in a little bit at home. But now teams have learned, actually, there's no point in sitting in against Reading. Just pressure them when they've got the ball, and the chances will come, and that's what's happened.
Yeah,
pretty much everywhere they go.
I went to Derby early in the season, and Derby, who are third, good team, perfectly good players. Normal, every day of the week they beat us, but they just didn't understand how to beat the system that we played, and therefore they lost. If they understood how to play the system, they'd have beaten us. And that's, as I said on this podcast a number of times, if a League 2 team knows how to play our system, they beat us. If a Premier League team doesn't know how to play our system, we beat them, and that's the defining characteristic at the moment.
I just think people have figured out that if you put a lot of pressure on Reading when they've got the ball in defence, then they haven't got much up front that's going to hurt you. And that's exactly what's happened. They're just shutting us down quickly. Even Birmingham done it the other week. I mean, Birmingham have been poor all season. They come to Reading, they look like world beaters, because all they did was pressures up high, and then when they got the ball, they put plenty of players forward. And that's what teams are doing, and they know it works because everyone else has done it, and it's been no different result since.
4 points off the drop zone at the moment. I think it's 15 games left to play. It's not comfortable, but I'm still of the position that there are 3 worse teams in this division than Reading.
Me too, but I think that if you get to the end of this week with Reading not playing, we could quite realistically be 1 point above the drop zone. And then you look at some of the games Reading got to play. I think they've got to play Derby, Sheffield United, Wolves. I can't see them getting much for any of them games. I think the defining game might actually be the Sunderland game nearer the back end of the season, where we've got Sunderland at home. But I can see other teams getting results. I think Bolton, they seem to be able to get a result here and there. Burton, probably not. But Sunderland, even the other day, and I was talking to a mate at work today, he said, can you see Reading coming from that performance against Brentford? Was it Brentford? And they was 3-0 down, and they managed to get a draw out of it this week.
Bristol City.
Bristol City, 3-0 up against a good side, and Sunderland managed to get back into that game.
Yeah.
Admittedly, they had 2 own goals, but still, you've got to put pressure on teams for that to happen. Could you see Reading doing that? I can't see Reading doing that.
No, I can't imagine that scenario. And that's the worrying thing is, let's imagine that we're still 4 points away from the drop zone when Sunderland come to us and they beat us. Then, suddenly you've got zero confidence, zero momentum, angry fans, and only about 4 games left to play. You only need to be in the relegation zone on the last day of the season, you get relegated.
I genuinely can't see Reading getting much from any of their away games they've got left. Genuinely can't. So then you're relying on the home form, and they haven't got any. And that's a worry.
Yeah, well, we'll continue to worry. That won't change anything in the meantime, and we'll move on to Pubchat then, because we're going to talk about what happens at Reading FC after Jaap Stam.
The Tilehurst End Podcast.
By Reading fans, for Reading fans.
So Pubchat returns this week then, because we've had a lot of questions in the mailbag revolving around Jaap Stam and everything. I kind of wanted to collate them all into one sort of chat about how we want Reading to be after Stam. This is kind of precluding the fact that we would stay up, basically. But Ben Brenton kind of on that point asked this question to us saying, are we past the point of getting rid of Stam? Bringing in a manager to stop us from being relegated would be short-term only, as the board would likely replace them in the summer anyway. And as bad as the current run is, he still thinks it's hard to see Reading ending up in the bottom three. And on that point, Westy, do you think that it's actually, if Stam can keep us up, and we're not in the relegation zone at the moment, is it actually worth holding out until the summer to make a proper appointment rather than making a sort of short-term or trying to find a long-term manager now?
Do you know what, Mark? Again, I was discussing this yesterday. I hope that in a year's time, me and you, or whoever sat around this table, is sat here going, what a great decision that was to keep hold of Jaap Stam. What an amazing decision to be under all that pressure and think, you know what, no, we're going to stick with you regardless. Because that's the sort of noises that are coming out of the club, isn't it? That they're going to stick with him regardless.
Yeah, that's how I felt.
Now, whether that's true or not, only time will tell. But I hope that they're right and we're wrong. But at the moment, like I say, it's so toxically bad that I can't see how you could get out of that situation. So at some stage, someone was going to have to make a decision. Either, like we just discussed, he gets sacked now and someone comes in short term, or you wait till the summer and do it. But then if you've stayed up, would they be more inclined to stay with him anyway? And
hasn't he done his job in a sense?
Yeah. Would they say to him, okay, you've kept us in the league. Now what do you need to sort of get us into the Premier League? I don't know. I think that's what they do.
The thing is, I think I've said before on this, I think that he will get until about October, because he'll start next season on the footing of, yes, here's our progress year, we've had a tricky year, it's football, etc., etc. Then we'll get to October, still be about 19th, 20th. Because nothing's really... we do want things to change for under Jaap Stam. We want to be a club that manages to keep their manager for a long time and is successful under it. But the evidence suggests that if we keep hold of him, we stay up, we will still be about 19th, 20th next season, unless we can do something incredible in the Championship. But then, letting him go in the summer, it does bring in the chance to have a refresh, to have the sort of reset mentality that we probably need as a club generally at the moment. And I kind of wonder, if we do get rid of him in the summer, what do you want from a manager to come in? What sort of style do you want them to have? What, background and everything we have? Because we've had quite a few different managers in the last few years, haven't we?
We have. And again, I've been watching a very long time now, so I've said lots of different styles. And I think sometimes we concentrate too much on what style we need to play and this is what we need to do, blah, blah, blah. What we need to do is find a way of winning football matches. Now, whether that means we go very direct and we start winning it that way, or we buy some players that are a bit more enforcers and they start being a bit more harder to beat, this sort of Neil Warnock sort of style where you make the team big, strong and difficult to beat in the Championship. I genuinely don't care. It doesn't bother me if Reading are a footballing team playing nice football like they did under McGee and was very successful, or they're a bit more industrious like they were under Pardew when you had sort of top-heavy strikers. You had a lot of good strikers and used to score goals for fun sometimes. I don't care how Reading play. I don't get involved in, do you need to play like Barcelona? Because I don't think you do to win football matches. I think you need to find a way to get the best out of the players that you've got in hand. And Reading have got some good players. I still think they've got some good players, even though they're struggling. But at the moment, the way we're playing isn't getting the best from them. And we spoke about Tyler Blackett and other players throughout the course of the season. And I think that there's a lot of good players there that are being held back by the style we are playing. So I would rather have a manager come in, assess what he's got there, see if he needs a couple to play his way or whatever way he thinks is best, and just go with what is best for the players rather than, let's try and play like Barcelona. We haven't got players that are good enough to play Barcelona football, so why try and do it?
Yeah, one of the things that has sort of confused me in a large sense is when Jaap Stam has been talking to the media and he's been saying, it's the fans are this and this is what we want to play. And he said that the owners want to play a sort of passing style of football. That to me is a bit of an alarm bell because, it may be a bit wistful to say this, but since when did the owners dictate this sort of thing about football? Is it turns into a bit of a plaything in that sense. It's not a business that you would say it has to play this way. It's a plaything when you say it has to play it this way. And for our owners are pretty much absent. I don't mind them being absent to a large extent. But if they're going to have a a say on the way we play, surely there should be more of a connection. Surely something has to change, because it doesn't make sense in my mind.
No, again, I'm not even sure that's true. I think that might be a bit of a cop-out, to be fair, because we haven't changed massively from the way we played last year, have we? There's no real change, and they wasn't in charge then. The ties were here. So yeah. I think that's a bit of a cop-out from Stam. I think that's this is what I've been told to do, but hang on, you was already doing that, so how do you work that out?
Yeah.
Also, if it is true, then it's a little bit of a curse of what I call the modern chairman, where they think that they can spend their money, because it's their money to spend, fair play to them, and then dictate what players come in and how we want the way we want to play. Now, again, if you're spending lots of money, I guess if it was me, I'd want to have a little bit of a say. But then on the flip side, you also got to understand that that's what your manager's there for, and even the players. I mean, I would be interested because obviously, is it Brian? What's his surname? Sorry.
Oh, Teverden.
Yeah, Brian Teverden. He's come in as a director of football. Now, who's buying the players? Does Stam earmark these players to be bought, or does they get brought in and he has to sort of...
Or Ron Gourlay, who's the chief executive, who got brought in from Chelsea. There's a lot of tiers of management going on there, isn't there?
It's a little bit murky now, isn't it? I mean, when it's going well, it's fine, but I don't know if Stam's buying the players or if he's earmarking a few, if they have these discussions. And I don't believe for 1 second that the chairman and the chair people have told Jaap Stam that we need to be playing a passing style of football. Surely they want to get in the Premier League, and like I said earlier, you do that the best way you can, whether that's playing football or being more direct or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, and also if the chairman or the owners rather, were there every single week and they were there and, you know, they maybe had a greater connection with the club, then maybe they would have more of an input saying, oh, this is how I've always liked Reading playing, or this is how I'm at the games. But if they're at the games, then they would see the attendances drop off, they'd see the fans unhappy, then they'd probably turn around to Sam and say, actually, go on, change it a little bit. They'd be more inclined to say, if they had an opinion, to change things because we're not being successful at the moment.
The thing is, put yourself in Stam's shoes. If you've set out your philosophy and this is the way I want to play, it looks very, I don't know, weak in a way that all of a sudden, because there's a little bit of pressure on you, or quite a bit of pressure on you, now we can say, okay, now we're not going to do that. We're going to do something completely different. And I think the sort of man that Stam seems to be, and again, I don't know him personally, but whenever you hear him on the radio, he seems like he's very stubborn in the fact that this is my way and this is the way it's going to be. And only recently he sort of started climbing down a little bit, saying, no, I'm telling the players to put the ball forward quicker. And I think the mentality was the same last year, where when we sort of had a few tricky spells throughout the season, the Reading fans are used to a certain way of playing football. And in general, that is much more direct, much more based on wing play and balls into the box. And there was a few howling it last year, get the ball forward quicker. And it never happened because we was winning. But now them sort of voices of dissent have become more and more and more. And like you say, if the chair people were there, would they really get involved in it? I don't think the chair people in general, from what I've seen of football, tend to get too much involved with the fans unless they can really help it. So I don't think it's been said to him. I just think he's been stubborn and set in his ways.
And add to one more point to this. Typically, the manager's the first to go. If the owners are unhappy, then they don't change anything else apart from the team. They change the manager. So
of course,
it would be a very different club if we suddenly back the manager over everything else. That'd be the complete opposite of how football usually works these days.
Exactly. And to answer the question, if Stam did go and the chair people are saying we want to play passing style football, then they're going to get another manager in who's going to try and play exactly the same way. And end up getting beat again. So unless you're going to...
Something's got to give.
Yeah, unless you're going to buy 6 or 7 players that are more top level than we've got, and they can play that sort of quick passing, moving forward football like your Real Madrids and your Barcelonas. But that ain't going to happen either because they cost a fortune. So they're going to have to find another way.
Yeah, another point I wanted to make on this is kind of, I mean, you say about passing managers. Is there even such a thing as a passing manager these days to a large extent? Because, I mean, even Stoke knocked it around under Mark Hughes. Yes, we have sort of Neil Warnock and Sam Allardyce. Perhaps you could call them relics of the 90s, sort of noughties Premier League football era. But, I mean, even McDermott, when he came back, knocked it around a little bit at the back. I don't think that's going to change. It's more the end product and the attacking emphasis and those sort of things that a manager has more of a say on these days.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if you look at... I think it goes back to the academy system at most clubs now. Because if you see a young midfielder... Well, what am I? Coming up for 40. So I've seen football through 80s, 90s, 2000s and these near decades of teens. And I think when I was a younger lad, the midfielders were much more industrious types of players. ball winners, good in the air, do you know what I mean? Big, strong in general. But now, because of the academy system, they've tried to implement, especially with midfielders, players that play what I call tippy-tappy, nice football. Like your Kellys and your players like your Swifty, to be fair. They get the ball, they look nice on it, they pass it sideways, they pass it forward, they've got nice hair, you know what I mean? They look lovely.
Take their nice Instagram photos. That's exactly. John Swift all over.
Yeah, they're good-looking fellas, you know what I mean? They've got lovely haircuts, and they play this little tappy-tappy football. And you feel, it's all very well and pretty. But sometimes you need players like your Ledgerwoods, who weren't great footballers, but knew how to win a football, you know, and knew how to nick a ball. And when you look at new midfielders now, or younger midfielders, there's not many players like that. And I think that is one of the problems of the academy system, teaching everybody or picking players that can all play the same sort of football. And I think that's why they've gone to a more, what I call Barcelona type style of football throughout the leagues. Even sort of, if you go a little bit lower, midfielders in general try to play this sort of football. And I think until you start coaching people to say, actually, he can win a ball, let's see how he can do. You know what I mean? Let's not encourage him. Let's not try and make him something he's not. Let's make him a player that can win the ball. Even strikers nowadays. When is the last time you see a young striker, you thought, God, he's good in the air. Real powerhouse, great at heading the ball. The last person I see who was good at heading the ball who come out of the academy was Darius Henderson. And that was years ago now.
Yeah, no, I can't think of anyone, to be honest, going back. And even then, like, having started in the early noughties myself, it was a case of 4-4-2. You got your two midfielders, both of which will be capable of winning the ball and get it out wide so the wingers will create. Now it's a case, because it's much more three midfielders now, so you have at least two of those midfielders are ball playing midfielders. Then you have the ball winning midfielders shoved back behind those, and often, I mean, we had like Michael Hector playing, he was a centre back, so he wasn't even a midfielder, moved forward, and even he was a technical sort of player. Yeah, even the ball winners these days have to be.
Yeah, even centre backs now, if you look at them compared to sort of the older centre backs, like say like your Inga Marsons and your Sonko. I mean, Sonko couldn't play football for toffee. He was a shocking footballer, but what he was big, strong, powerful, could sprint, and he was good in the air. Right, with Inga Marson was again not the best footballer in the world, but he said now how to put in a tackle in, his timing was good, and he's able to read a game. And that used to help Sonko through it. Now, if you look at that team compared to the team they got now, look at the midfielders. Sidwell and Harper, great engines. Sidwell used to get forward, score goals, could win a ball, great tackler. Harper, decent tackler, good passer. You know what I mean? They used to complement each other. Same as the wingers.
Yeah.
And the strikers, you had your players like your Quinns, your Butlers, your Seniors, all good in the air, good ball winners, winning the ball in the air. Compared to what we've got now, there's no comparison. There's no one. Even Bodvarsson, Kerbigan's all right in the air, right, but defending the ball, great. Attacking the ball, not amazing. And Bodvarsson, he's just a player that tries his hardest, runs around, but he ain't no world beater, is he? He's not going to get 20 goals a season. Not in a million years.
No, I think we discovered that recently as well, considering he had his hat-trick against Stevenage, and typically a striker who loves scoring goals, or is a great goal scorer rather, would be able to take that hat-trick and get, 5 in 5 games, and he just hasn't been able to.
No. And I think whenever he starts, he sort of runs out of steam after an hour. But yeah, there's the players that they have now that come through academies, in general, I think are all the same. There's no... Even the strikers got, even Sam Smith, I watched him every week. Yeah, he's all right. He runs around. He's pretty quick, but he's not going to be no world beater. He doesn't look the part. You know what I mean? He puts in a bit of an effort. He's not quick, not lightning quick.
No one defining attribute.
And he's not great in the air. So what's the point?
Yeah. I think my last point on this sort of post-Stam era Reading chat then, it's related to Matthew Hutchinson's question saying, who should be our next manager? I mean, is there any real appetite for a former Reading hero to come back? McDermott came back, as I mentioned a bit ago, saying he's got slated by a lot of fans. A lot of fans hated him when he came back.
I did.
Because he certainly wasn't the team that we'd seen in 2012 when he came back. He didn't resemble that in any sense. There's always talk of Parkinson. Murty's at Rangers, although I wouldn't say he's willing or it's in any stage his career to come back to Reading at the moment.
Murty would only get a job based on sentiment, wouldn't
he? Because he's only really been a caretaker at Rangers, and even that, I think he's just unwilling.
Again, I think me and you could go to Rangers and finish in the top half of the Scottish League. So
they'd beat Ayr 6-1.
You know what I mean? It's not difficult, is it?
£20 a week, aren't they?
It's not difficult. I think Murty, again, I like Murty. He's a great guy. I've met him. He's always been really nice whenever I've met him. But he'd be based on sentiment. For a team of Reading's standing, is Murty going to go straight into his real first managerial job because he used to play for us? I think that's wrong. Parkinson, I think there's arguments for Parkinson. I think he's been around a long time. He knows the division. He's only ever been at clubs, apart from Hull, that, let's face it, are batting above their weight. And he's done well in League One, which we might be, so it could be a good choice.
Might be down there. Nabbing him off Championship Bolton to go to League One Reading.
But again, if it continues the way it's going, Mark, and you've got the fans turning on the players and the managerial team, and then what will happen eventually is the chair people, again, they don't get mentioned when you're winning, only when you're losing does anyone care. If that starts happening, then the people in charge might think, actually, let's get Parkinson back. That get the crowd on side.
Yeah,
he'll get given more opportunity than most, because if they're not doing so well, they think, well, he's only just come and it's Parkinson. Do you know what I mean? They might do that. I doubt it, but it could happen.
What I would recommend, my final point on this, what I would recommend is that the next manager, I mean, I don't really care if they're European or Spanish or what have you. As long as they know how to win football games, it's totally irrelevant to me. But what I would do is have their assistant be someone who has a bit more connection to the club. Make them... It's kind of what like Jose Mourinho, when he went to Real Madrid, put Aitor Karanka, who's the former Real Madrid defender, as his assistant. And I think that's a very shrewd move, particularly at this time of the club and the relationship with the fans, like you say.
Yeah.
I think that would be a shrewd move.
But haven't they already, to a certain extent, done that? I mean, Jukes been promoted to first team coach, hasn't he? So
he's on. Yeah, they're on the way. I just don't think they've got a couple of Dutch guys around Stam at the moment. So I think they're trying to, but maybe they're not quite ready for anyone to do that yet.
That's again, if you go and get a foreign manager, it might end up being the same sort of thing as we've got now.
They'll have their own people. Yeah, typically
they have their own people. They're going to want to bring their own people in. Like I said, I don't care. I don't care who's in charge of Reading. I don't care if they put the devil in charge, as long as they're winning football matches. Simple as that.
Simple as that. Sell your soul to the devil for promotion from the Championship. That's what we agree with here on the channel.
That's all right. You put a bit of fire into their belly, if nothing else.
Yeah, scare the players into submission. Brilliant. Well, that's it for Pubchat then, and we will move on to answering the rest of your questions now in the mailbag.
Get social with the boys.
Find them on Twitter
at the Tilehurst End
and facebook.com/the Tilehurst End.
Mailbag time then, and we have got a few mailbag questions this week. The first one comes from Ryan Davis, who we're going to make a bit of a game here, Westy. He's asked, which is the worst lineup? Reading's first team of 2018 or Reading Festival 2018? Now, I don't know if you've seen this, but Reading Festival's lineup came out on, Tuesday morning. It's not great. I've been to Reading Festival a few times. I know my music, and it is awful, as someone who likes to say they know their music. So I'm going to name you some people or artists here. One of these is not on the Reading Festival lineup.
Bearing in mind, Mark, that I've never been to Reading Festival and I wouldn't know any of these bands anyway, so if I get this right, it'd be a hell of a guess.
It will be. And I think you can tell from the names that I'm going to read out, you can tell the sort of people that are playing Reading Festival these days. So the first one is Playboy Carty. That's Boy, B-O-I.
Nice.
My New Leng. That's New, N-U. Kendro Reflux. Kojo Funds. Fredo, with the 1D. Suicide Boys, where the S's are either end of dollar signs. A Boogie Wit Da Hoodie is the other one.
Well, I would hope that one was a fake one, because every come of that needs to be shot. That's a terrible name for any sort of group.
A Boogie Wit Da Hoodie.
Yeah, that is poor, isn't it?
It's real.
Is that real?
It is real, yeah.
Wow. Playboy Carty then?
No, it's actually Kendro Reflex is the one that I made up out of those. All the rest are...
Wow, to be fair, that's the only one I thought was real.
It is almost a bit of a red herring, isn't it? Yeah, that's the state. I think Reading Festival 2018 is always worse than Reading First Team 2018, because I actually like a few of the people at Reading in the first team. There's only about 2 bands I would see at Festival.
I think there's one thing they will have in common, though. By the end of it, they'll probably all be booed off. So.
All bottled off. Yeah, that's going to be some of the questions later on. Don't worry about that. Ben Greenwood asked, if we were to be relegated and the board still wanted Stam to stay, would he? And if that was the case, could you see us bouncing straight back up? I think they probably would want him to stay, because there was an assumption within the club that Stam is a good young manager who has a long-term future in the game and is therefore an asset.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Would they want him to stay? If they've let him get to the stage where they've been relegated, then they may as well stick with him for the new season. Whether that'll help crowd attendances or the fans reconnect with the players in the team, I doubt. But that's probably what they'll do, I'd have thought. Bouncing
straight back up?
Again, you'd hope so, with the quality they've got. But again, sometimes when it's as toxic as can become, especially if they were to get relegated as well, I think Reading would again be a big scalp in that division as well, and I think it'd be very difficult to come straight back up. Although Wigan have proved that it is doable.
And Blackburn, who themselves had a very toxic atmosphere, are third at the moment. They're not doing too bad. And I mean, you're playing like Scunthorpe and Shrewsbury both in the top 4 at the moment. If we're not better than them, then...
You would have think if Reading didn't even buy a new player and they just kept exactly the same squad, that they should have enough to get out of that division, one way or another.
Yeah, Louis Burton asked, which League One grounds are you looking forward to seeing? I'll show you the table at the moment. Oxford are in there.
Where have I not been? Bradford. There we go.
Yeah, Bradford would be interesting. I've been Portsmouth. I've been Bristol Rovers is actually meant to be quite a good atmospheric ground, not in terms of quality of the stadium.
Pompey would be nice. It's not too far to go. That's all right.
MK Dons are getting relegated at the moment as well, so that's probably going to be ticked off. And then I think
Plymouth. That's all right. It's not a bad little trip.
Yeah, and Oxford as well. We haven't had a derby in ages. I think Swindon might actually be getting promoted out of League 2, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. We might have 2 derbies that I know I haven't had years of none.
That's how I'm quite looking forward to it now. Sounds good.
It sounds like a good day out. Sounds like a bunch of pre-season friendlies is what it is. Matthew Everson says, do we even have enough fight for a relegation battle?
No, we don't. There's not enough players in that team that are prepared to scrap for that side. I said it at the start, I'll say it again. There is not enough. And the ones that do look badly off the pace at the moment. Again, off air we spoke about Kermorgan, and during the game the other week when we was home to Millwall, he had a few touches and a few of the fans booed him, which I thought was disgusting. I remember saying at the start of this season that I don't expect Kermorgan to come back and save us or to bang in a load of goals. He's 36, coming up 37. He's had no pre-season. He's had a bad injury. He's missed a lot of football. So to expect him to come in and hit the ground running and score, 10 goals, it's not very likely. And let's face it, the supply to the strikers is poor at best. The only time he's had a decent cross this year was from Blackett. And then he had his only goal he scored. So, no, I don't think we've got a fight for relegation battle. And I think if it goes another 3 or 4 weeks and we get nearer and nearer to it, I can only see us going down.
I think we are where we are at the moment because of a lack of fight. If we had fight, we'd be mid-table, but we don't have it, and therefore I don't think we have enough fight for relegation battle. No. I don't see how we'd magic that up.
I mean, we've got quality. I don't think there's a lot of fight in Aluku. I think he's a glamour player to a certain extent. He's all right when he's got the ball at his feet, but don't ask him to do anything else much. Again, there's fight in, I'd say, Bodvarsson. I think he's got a bit of fight in him. Kermorgan, I think the fight's been knocked out of him. And the midfield, no, there's no fight in them. Apart from Mav Vandenberg, and like I say, it's only because he's off the pace most of the time that he makes a tackle. It's a worry. It is a worry. Laurie, can you see him being in a fight to keep us out in the division? No. No,
McShane, again, it's kind of the Kermorgan argument. McShane is being a bit past it, being a bit old for it, not really getting the ability to do it week in, week out. More, I would say he does, but then he would know in the back of his mind that he's going to leave if we get relegated. Yep. No doubt whatsoever.
I mean, McShane's got plenty of fight in him. I mean, he's got plenty of Irish spirit, but his ability this year, he's been poor. I think he's looked off the pace. Bakuna is another one. I think he'd be right when things are going well. I think he could be a good player. But is there fight in him? Has he got the attitude for it?
Not going to drag you up.
No way. And Barrow, no way. I mean, Barrow's a good going forward, but there's no fight in him. I'm seriously worried for him.
Yeah, Joel Frayne says if you could add any current Championship player to your squad, no restrictions, who'd you pick?
Any.
Anyone apart from Burton or Sunderland?
Yeah, I can't off the top of my head. I can't think of many. But there's plenty of old Reading players, if they had their time again, that you'd put in that side. And I don't think there's anyone that would survive a Cullen at this point. If you could say, right, you could pick anyone from the last 10 years, I reckon I could pick a much better side, and there would be no one in that current team that would get in it, apart from possibly more. Any of his forms dipping drastically.
I went to Wolves a couple of weeks ago to watch them beat Sheffield United, and I thought Diogo Jota, I mean, he's on loan from Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, I mean, their forward line is ridiculous.
I would have him as my answer to the question, but as I was watching that, and I said to my friend, we both went there as sort of the first time we've been to Molineux, meet up and have a pub day out sort of thing, and I said, like, these players have all been told you can go to Wolves and then you'll get promoted, then they'll stay up for one season, then we'll move you on immediately. Yeah. There's no sense they'll stay at the club ever, like, for long term.
I mean, it's a short-term plan, but if it works, then...
But that's the thing, because it's a short-term plan that involves Premier League quality players. People like Ruben Neves, who played in the Champions League, go to Wolves. It's just I mean, our hopes of getting promoted compared to that.
I say all of them you'd pick, wouldn't you? I think to answer the question, all of them you'd pick. In fact, most of the Wolves side you'd pick and put in because they're top of the league and they're clearly running away with it to a certain extent. So yeah, but it's again, there's not There's not many Reading players I think would get in a 22-man Championship squad.
Oh, no.
If you said, right, you can pick anyone for Championship, give me 22 players, and you had 6 months to have a look at it, or a couple of weeks, I don't think any Reading players...
I could do 50 without any Reading players.
Again, and that's all you need to know, isn't it?
Yeah. Andy Johnson asks, is it time for some sort of fan protest against Stam? I'm old enough to remember going on the pitch before Bullivant went. My problem with protests against Stam is he's already addressed the fans and said that they're the problem. If you prove to him that you're the problem, you don't change him. He is a stubborn man, as we've spoken before. That's kind of what the sense we get with him. It's not a solution, I don't think.
It's not. I think some people go there to see Reading get beat. I think a lot, or some Reading fans, enjoy them losing to a certain extent. I think it makes their day out that they get something to complain about.
Because it proves them right.
Yeah, proves them right, and I don't want to be proved wrong. I mean, some people turn up, and before the game, I could hear people with voices of dissent. I'm thinking, hang on, the very nature of you being it is as a supporter. So support them. At the end of the game, if you want to boo, I think you've got every right to. If you think they haven't put in a decent effort for you, fair enough. During a game, shouting stuff that's not helping anybody, is that going to keep them up? No, so I do it.
Yeah, and George asked time for protests as well. There's been other grumblings and whatnot going on. The thing is, I just think that I don't want to support a football team. I've watched teams like Blackburn and Newcastle, and I've seen even Southampton when they came to us in the early sort of 2010, 2011 period, complaining about their chairman. I don't want to be one of those teams. I don't think there's any benefit from being one of those teams. Some of them are successful now, but generally it's just not a nice place to be. It's not why I support football.
I think the teams you need to look at is Blackpool. Do you remember when they had all their issues and they're chucking ping pong balls, tennis balls on the pitch and that? What happened to them? They ended up in League Two. So is that what you want? And what are you protesting about? Are you protesting about the chair people? Because they've put a lot of money in. They've spent a lot of money this year on players. If you're going to moan about Stam, I think to the outside football world, you look like a load of mugs. Because last year, with next to nothing, and a team that finished, 17th, 18th the year before, they finished third. And I think you could ride on that for quite a long time before people have any sympathy for you. And I think the only way you get out of this current plight is to get behind a team as best you possibly can. And if you ain't going to get behind a team, the only other protest is don't come.
Well, that is the biggest. That's the protest that I think a lot of fans are making, and that's the protest that I totally understand. Is when you are bored, and it is a protest against a style of play. No one dislikes Stam because he's Dutch or because he used to play for Man United. People don't like his style of play because it's boring. If you're bored, don't go, because that is a protest in itself. It works. It's something that is totally understandable because it's your own money, and that's the only sort of thing that is really worth doing, in my opinion.
And it's the only protest that's worth doing in any club. If you stop going, then they listen to you. If you've got a full stadium every week, no one cares. They don't care.
Full stadium, and you're saying, "Oh, this is a little bit boring," and they'll say, "No, but we got your money, so what's that?"
But it's a full stadium, so it can't be. Yeah, exactly. So the only way you're going to protest George is to not come. If you're prepared to do that, good luck to you. If other fans want to protest and basically ruin Reading's chances of winning games, because that's what will happen, then don't bother. It's counterproductive.
Yeah, Connor Davis, to round up Mailbag, asks, "Hi, I want to ask how you feel the atmosphere could be improved at the Mad Stad. I don't mean the toxic air around the place, more in terms of singing, cheering, etc. I honestly feel that if we got behind the team as much as away teams do, then it could potentially help performances." I mean, yes, if we had a world-class Borussia Dortmund-style atmosphere every single week, we probably would be a better team for it, but you have to be realistic in the history of the club and the location of the people that support it, and their history with the town, and how the town itself has been brought up in the last few decades and grown massively, which means people perhaps don't have such an association with it, etc., etc. Could go on to that for a long time. The underlying bottom common denominator is that we don't have the ability to produce a world-class Borussia Dortmund-style atmosphere at this club.
No, it won't happen. Not in my lifetime, I wouldn't have thought either. But I've been to Reading, the new ground, and there's a number of occasions I could think that actually there's been a great atmosphere. I think the whole time they was in the Premier League, I thought the fans got behind them every game because they felt that they needed to. Do you know, when they played at Liverpool and Tottenham, and you know from the beginning that you're up against it. And I think that's the mentality with Reading fans. If they think that Reading either really need a big result or they're up against it from the start, the fans get behind them. If they think, like they do now, that actually we're a better side than the team we're playing, why are we so poor? then automatically they switch to the other mentality, which is, well, you've got to entertain me before I'm going to get behind you. Rightly or wrongly, not saying I agree with either way, but I think that's the way it is. I actually think since the drummer's gone, it's had a bit of an effect on the atmosphere, because at least he used to get things started at corners.
I like the drummer. I like the drummer. It really annoyed me that people hate the drummer.
And now that's not there either. It doesn't seem to be anyone to start things off.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I'd say in terms of atmosphere is that when we believe that the atmosphere being good will change the team, when we see that sort of nudges, a fight and everything like that we see in the team, that sort of proves that the atmosphere is going to help the team and shows us that there's fight in the team, that increases the atmosphere in itself. And at the moment, there's a sense amongst the fans that even having a good atmosphere will keep the team playing in the same way they're playing. It will keep things being a bit boring, and it won't actually have the desired effect.
Yeah, you do need them to spark you sometimes, whether that be a good effort, or someone putting a great tackle, or just a ball's going in, someone slid in and cleared it off the line with their head. Anything like that. It gets fans' pulses racing. But at the moment, can you think of anything this year that's set your pulse racing?
Well, the number of times I've been
to substitutions, that's about it, I think.
The number of times I've been to Medeski over the years, and a big tackle has made an impression. Players like Stephen Hunt would make a massive tackle and that would lift the crowd.
Yeah.
Can't think of one time that's happened under Stam in general. Certainly not this season.
I remember the last big tackle.
That's what we were talking about earlier, wasn't it? It just goes to show that these things that lift the fans aren't part of the style at the moment, and therefore it just underlines everything that everyone knows it. And it's, it just goes to show that we talk about atmosphere and we talk about, let's get the fans singing some more, but everything comes back to how it is on the pitch.
Yeah, definitely. And I think looking back at games against Sheffield United down the years with Warnock and that, there's been some great atmospheres in them games. There's been a bit of niggle, and there's been a few sort of dirty tackles flying about. Plenty of goals, bit of excitement, and the fans got behind it. I think Bradford in the quarterfinals of the Cup, great atmosphere at the start of that game. And again, it was because we all wanted Reading, we all sort of urged them to get to semi-final. And again, in the Premier League, just because we knew they was up against it every week, they got behind them. So it does happen. But at the moment, it's very difficult for anyone to get excited about watching that, Joss. Yeah,
and ultimately, I mean, we win the game. Wow, we go up to 16th. Check that out.
Exactly.
We're only 7 points away from relegation. It's not enough to bring people up. So thank you for everyone who sent in their mailbag questions. The tilehurstend@gmail.com is always the place to do that, or on Twitter, as we put out our call outs before the show each week. And we will round off this episode of the Tilehurst End Podcast on any other business.
The Tilehurst End Podcast.
Any other business?
So, 10 days off from the Boro game up to Nottingham Forest, and 5 of those days are going to be spent in Spain by the Reading players. They're having an intensive training camp, I believe it's being called. I don't know where in Spain it is, so I can't tell anyone to go and protest at a particular airport or whatnot.
Undisclosed, is it?
I think it very much is undisclosed, actually. There's going to be about, I think it's 2 days of full intensive training sessions and a couple of other days as travelling/training sessions as well. I mean, I don't personally see this as some sort of holiday. I just don't think it's going to work. Because we had I think as Stam said before the Boro game, that we had a couple days off in the week, and he said everyone's really invigorated by that, and that's worked perfectly. Now they're going on an intensive training session. It's 6 of 1 half a dozen as far as I can tell. I'm not sure it's really going to have much of an effect.
No, it's one of those things, if they come back and they win the next 2 games, it looks like a masterstroke. And if they come back and get beat as usual, then everyone's going to be saying, why was you in Spain for 5 days?
Yeah, exactly.
It sort of leads you up to nothing, doesn't it, really? Hopefully it'll work, and they sort of come back nice and refreshed with a nice tan and play some nice football. But again, I don't think these things work in general.
Yeah, I'm not sure training ground time is really what the players need at the moment. They probably need as much time away from the training ground as certainly away from Stam as possible. At the moment, 7:45 kickoff on next Tuesday, the 20th, that is, away at Nottingham Forest. This is a really good time to play Nottingham Forest in a large sense of the word. They've lost 10 of their last 15 games in all competitions. They've not scored in their last 3 games in general, conceding 7. Their last home goal in the league came 451 minutes of football ago on December the 9th. This is the perfect time to play them.
It's the perfect time to play them. And again, it's one of those games that really, with the amount of games we've got left, you should be earmarking to get some points from. You hope that they go there knowing that probably Forest's fans are a little bit disgruntled as well.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to give them the opportunity to start well, do you? You want to make sure you start quickly on the front foot and try and get that first goal. And then all of a sudden that atmosphere that you complain about your home ground will become what's happening at your away ground, and just give you every opportunity to win the game. But as we know from the last 10 weeks, that's not happened. So
yeah, well, I mean, this is the type of game you do want to play away from home rather than play at home. Obviously, we beat Forest earlier in the season at the Badesky. We've only won one in our last 5 trips to the City ground. There's generally been plenty of goals in these games as well. There's a 4-3 in our playoff year, 3-2 at the City ground last season. I'm not sure how this game is going to go out because, as you say, an early goal in this from either team completely changes the complexion of the match. Both teams are so vulnerable in that sense that I think whoever scores first will probably go on and win.
Yeah, you'd have thought so. And that's why it's imperative, really, that first half hour or so, Reading go to win that game, not to keep the ball for 75% of the time.
Yeah, Forest are playing on the Saturday that we have off because we were meant to have Sheffield United, but they're playing in the Cup, so that's been delayed for a week or so. Forest playing Burton away from home. They've not drawn at home all season, Nottingham Forest, so is that type of thing that might influence your prediction in this game?
I was going to go for a draw, funnily enough, but it gives Reading absolutely no excuse for putting in a poor performance on that Tuesday. There is no way you can get out of it. You're not at home, so you can't moan about the home fans. You've been away in Spain. You've had 10 days off. They've played Saturday. No excuse.
Yeah, I mean, I'm prediction league sort of update-wise, we all got Boro right because we all said it was going to be a defeat. I was the only one who said 2-1. We all got Millwall wrong because none of us thought we were going to lose at home to Millwall.
Because it come off the back of a win.
Yeah, exactly. We'd all been blinded.
Yeah.
So Tom Crocker still leads from Wim. Then Westy is just put behind Wim. Then myself, Handbags and Johnny trailing through. I'm going to have to go with the 1-0 win here because I do think we have it in us to nick a goal. We don't do it very often, but we do it away from home every now and again. And I do, as I say, I do believe that whoever scores first in this game is going to win.
Right. Contrary to what I just said, looking at the leaderboard there, I'm going to go for a defeat. 1-0.
1-0.
I don't want to, but I think it will be.
Yeah, it is such a hard game to call. Especially, I mean, Forest play on the weekend. If they win 4-0 away at Burton, then I might have to change mine because that's the sort of momentum that they can take. And we go into this game with such little momentum. Having the 10 days off almost brings us back up to maybe getting some momentum just from being fresher.
Yeah, I think genuinely, he's got to play. He's got to start Martin, hasn't he? He's got to start Martin on Tuesday.
Yeah, I'd expect him to. We had 3 strikers on the bench. We had Sam Smith, Jan Kermigan and Martin on the bench at Boro, and the fact that it didn't really work means that he might go back to 2 in to attack. Modo Barrow was missing for Boro as well, so hopefully he's going to be back with from injury or whatever it was. I don't think that ever got confirmed, with McCleary and Aluko starting, and I'm not sure I'd have either McCleary or Aluko start.
The way out of form, both of them.
Given the choice. And then, it just depends, left back and everything, whether Bacuna is going to stay at full back. I like Bacuna, but he's not consistent. He's not, as we say, someone who drags you out of team, so I'm not sure I'd start him at Forest.
I also think to a certain extent he's wasted at right back or left back. I think if you're going to play him in midfield. Otherwise you just sort of square pegs and round holes, aren't you? I think he does all right there, but is he a right back or left back? Sometimes he looks really good, but I think other times you think I'm not sure about you.
Yeah, it is very much 1 week, one thought, and then the next week the other thought. Tommy Elphick's still going to be injured as far as I'm aware. John Swift is not back in full training just yet, so I doubt he'd be there. So we'll see how it goes. Keep an eye on the Tilehurst then for all the build-up and reaction to that. 7:45 on the Tuesday. So all that's left is me to thank everyone for listening. I'm thanking you, Westy, for coming down and chatting Reading FC this afternoon.
I sound a bit angry today. I didn't mean to be.
Well, to be fair, if we were reflecting the mood of the fans, we'd just be like, oh, it was boring, wasn't it?
I do tend to get a bit headstrong when it comes
got to get some emotion into it, because otherwise there'll be no reason to listen to it. And yeah, thank you for everyone coming to listen to this, and anyone who continues to go on the Patreon campaign and donate as that. We're always very thankful to anyone who donates to our little virtual tip jar. And as I say, there'll be no podcast extra on Thursday, so they will be back the next Thursday. That's the next podcast after the Nottingham Forest game, because we'll be having a week off, thank God. And all that's left is for me to say, come on, you ours.
Even when its team is you smile. Funny how the crimes always leave a trail, even when it seems